everyone, and welcome to the Secret Art of Business. Today, my guest will be super excited because I have Rachel Friedman, and Rachel is here as the CEO of two companies. One is the award-winning TENFOLD brand, which you have had for almost 10 years now, and then you also developed TENSPACE, which is in some ways still marketing, but so much more. So thank you for being here, and if you could talk a little bit through about what each of those businesses are.
Sure. Well, Catherine, thank you for inviting me. It's great to see you, and I'm really excited to be a part of your podcast. I think it's really cool what you're doing,
You.
helping to promote creativity and all that you do, and that's obviously really important to me. So this is wonderful. So Tenfold is a culture strategy and creative firm. We focus on building brands through the lens of company culture, leveraging what makes these companies, organizations, professional sports teams, whoever we're working with, what makes them special on the inside, leveraging that as a source of competitive advantage to help them win. And so we create strategies around those things, and then we activate on those strategies through a number of different channels. One of them being the built environment. So leveraging space as a medium to communicate, leveraging a client's investment in real estate to work harder for them to really create this emotional connection between people and place. And then we also do quite a bit of work in the digital channel, where we are helping to continue to activate, because we know that people, both clients, consumers, and employees, are showing up in both channels. Our lives are not siloed in that way. So we're focused in all of those different channels for activation. TenSpace is a really unique retail concept that we started in 2021. It is a physical space that we own/lease. And it's sort of like if Tenfold did retail, what would it be? And what TenSpace is a dedicated space that features an online brand in the space where we create in real life experiences. And those in real life experiences approach the storytelling very similarly to how we do at Tenfold, which is really to uncover what makes these brands really special and unique from the inside, from a culture perspective. Allows consumers to really look under the hood at what the vision and the purpose of these brands are. A lot of them are founder led, so they have really inspiring founder stories. And then obviously they have extraordinary product too, and it allows consumers the opportunity to touch and feel, sometimes taste, depending on what it is, the product, and do it through what we would define as experiential activations. So ways that we can physically immerse people in an experience and leverage those experiences across all of the senses. The real kind of interesting part, and I think the really sort of secret sauce of TenSpace, is that it creates a tremendous amount of organic social content. So essentially, everyone that walks in the door becomes immersed and inspired in such a way that they are sort of encouraged on their own without being told or instructed to. They want to capture their experience digitally. So they'll often take out their phone and they'll capture video and photo, and then they'll share that out to their social channels because they've been authentically inspired. So what this creates for the brand is a tremendous opportunity from an advertising perspective to activate in not only the physical brick and mortar space, but also in the digital channel. And the two working in unison creates a really powerful flywheel for the brand.
Very cool. And there's so much that I could really unpack with that as you were talking through that and about that social experience. I am going to really encourage people to check out your website. I will include that information because it's going to blow your mind. Your team, you and your team have created just some of the most amazing spaces that do inspire, that are, like I said, just kind of breathtaking. And in order to really understand what you're pulling off, it's you got to see it to believe it. So I will include that information for people to see, and if anything, encourage people to also have their own experience in the stores. And the fact that you brought up experience, I think, is also super key. That's the other thing I'm going to put a fine point on, just because great retail, great anything, when you want to sell anything, customer service in general, is about the experience. That's what people review. That's what people talk about. That's what keeps people coming back. And it's about the experience that they had. And it is so, so, so important. And you have captured that again, just really beautifully for each of these brands. And just to
Thank
kind of
you.
see some of the brands you've touched, I think is also really exciting too, and what your interpretation of it was. I've seen your stuff around town, and I am always blown away about what you guys have been capturing. So
Thank you. Thanks,
fantastic,
Kathy.
fantastic work.
Yeah, we really do like to blaze trails. For us, it's really all about innovation and being a leader in our category, or even creating a category that didn't exist before. And I would say that TenSpace is definitely that. There's no apple to the apple. We've searched high and low. We've gone to all the big cities. We've tried to see if there are other people out there doing something very similar to what we're doing. And I think we're experimenting and exploring with it. We're pushing boundaries. We're testing things. We sort of look at it in some respects as a lab for Tenfold and for these brands to learn something really new and unique. And sometimes that's hard. I mean, it is hard. It's hard work to innovate, and sometimes you're way ahead of the curve. And I, sometimes we'll describe it as like, I'm always sort of thinking of the blue ocean strategy, if you're familiar, with that way of thinking. Sometimes I feel like I'm hanging out on the surfboard in the blue ocean, waiting for the wave to come along, because sometimes you can get way out in front of it. But we're very passionate about it. We believe in it. And I think what's been really great for us as a company, as we look at both Tenfold and TenSpace, is that they're both predicated and both ladder up to our vision, which is around inspiring humanity, which sounds very lofty, and it is. But what it means for us is that the work that we do reminds us all that we're human, because we have a shared human experience. And when we are inspired, it reminds us of our humanity. And I think that we've seen this validated in our work. And I think it's especially noticeable for us as designers and strategists at TenSpace, because we get to engage with consumers. Even though our clients, we get to experience them having those moments with us in our presentations and when we implement projects. We're not always like right there with the end user on a daily basis, but when we're at TenSpace and you have people walking in and you get that, that transfer and that exchange of energy with people who walk in the door, it's so validating to see people either have an aha moment where they're being educated or enlightened on something, or more often than not, that level of inspiration can sometimes move people to tears, which we've had at TenSpace. We've had those experiences. And it's sort of corny to say, but it's true. Like there's so much joy in that space. And there's so much goodness in that space that it's just really heartwarming.
Great. You are just basically putting into words exactly everything that I believe as far as how important creativity and innovation is, because it does bring that joy. And it's not just, doing and working and, cranking out the hours and making, producing things just on a very, mundane basis. It is about that leveling up that you are talking about, and that re-innovation. And there are more and more studies out right now about how important that is, just as humans, to have that contact with others, to have those shared experiences, to have our creativity tickle just by either seeing things visually or just going through the motions of experiencing that joy that a lot of creativity brings. So yeah, you hit all of that on the head. And with that said, you have been creative for a very long time, because off camera I had mentioned how I too have a BFA. And that leads me to believe, what did you do as a child that was creative or innovative that kind of led you on that path?
Yeah. From the time I was very young, I enjoyed, painting and coloring, or just working with pastels. I attended, like many people in Columbus who grew up in Columbus, I attended the Saturday morning CCAD art program. I will say I had just a very supportive parent in the development of my artistic skills. So my mom was always very much encouraging me to take those types of classes and lean into the things that I enjoyed doing. And, and I've described in the past too, like in high school, I took a very, a very rudimentary interior design class. I think it was more or less a home economics class. But regardless of that, I found that, you know, like our big project for the semester was something that I just couldn't put down. And I remember my mom saying to me, if it's something that you can't put down, like those are the things that you should be thinking about doing for a career.
I love that.
And so I felt really fortunate and really lucky to have a parent in my life who, you know, didn't have rules about what I should or shouldn't do. I was a very good student across, a wide variety of subjects, but to really encourage me to follow my passion and go to college and study art and design, which, some kids, they don't have those options. Where parents are saying, well, if you're going to go to this university and we're going to pay this amount in tuition, then, you're not going to study art and design.
Absolutely.
You can do that as a minor. You can do that in your free time, or you can whatever. So I went into it very enthusiastically with a lot of family support to pursue those passions. And then, I will also say I really enjoy, which I know is another question around like, what do you do today that's creative? But I grew up with my mom who was a full-time working mom, and she owned a restaurant. So I had the entrepreneurial piece in my growing up. I also had the creative piece. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen at my mom's restaurant and spent a lot of time learning from the prep cooks and the line cooks. And I loved hanging out back there. And so, I think that's a big part of my creative background as well. The things that I
I'm gonna
still
give a hat
carry
tip
with
to mom
myself.
because restaurants are hard for one,
Oh
and
yeah.
the fact that she did it is amazing. And
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that gets into that line of business are amazing people. But what I always
Mhm.
love about people who've had a history in that service retail sort of experience is just that hand-to-hand contact you have with customers and with problem solving, and it's all got to be so quick. Decisions have to be so quick. Things happen so quickly, especially in a kitchen, and you have to respond and just immediately. And I think that just really builds a great base for anybody who wants to
Mhm.
either be in business or have anything related to customer service, because
Yeah.
as you know, as an owner, business owner, what's the problem of the day? It's always some little thing that has to be tweaked or figured out or kind of hashed out. And it does help to have at least a little bit of background in that from an
Definitely.
incredibly rapid pace.
Definitely. Definitely. And what I will say too about creativity is something that I've learned um, throughout my career. And, I started Tenfold 22 years into my career. So in some respects, I feel like a late bloomer entrepreneur, although I'd always worked for companies that gave me a lot of freedom and latitude to build
Hmm.
out value propositions and build essentially businesses within the businesses. But what I learned was that being an entrepreneur or being a business owner um, is being a creator. When you're creating a business, you are
Yeah,
creating,
yeah,
and that it requires creativity. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of business owners, a lot of founders have strong passions in things like architecture or art,
hmm,
because they are creators. They're creators of businesses. So the entrepreneur part of me is very much aligned with the desire to create and to be a creative person. And I probably align even the most with the entrepreneurial side of myself than necessarily the designer or the artist side of myself.
yeah. That makes all perfect sense. And it I have seen the more successful entrepreneurs be those late bloomers because honestly, they learned from the best in some cases.
Mhm.
And that is almost like a graduate degree in business in general
Mhm.
or in really high end marketing, learning on somebody else's dime basically with huge
Mhm.
budgets to then say, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to give this a go. but you know,
Yeah.
at that point, you know everything. So yeah, for
Yeah.
people that are still thinking about, is it too late? No, it's not.
No, it's not. It just takes some,
You
I
just,
would
you're
say it's
just,
not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint
everybody's
of
ready at
heart.
a different
The highs
time.
are high,
Oh,
the lows are low. I also made the decision to go back to school while I was working full time to get my graduate degree in business, and that was, um, again, I think just part of my, recognizing that I had curiosity and I had a passion for business,
hmm
um, and then understanding, as I grew in my career, that this really close relationship between the two, which I think is really cool.
that was probably very wise because you didn't have to learn as you go, which a lot of entrepreneurs do when it comes to things in business too. It's like, okay, well, I saw that coming because I've heard about it before. Where in my
Yeah,
case, I did not go back and get a business degree, and I'm like, what is this? I gotta find somebody to help me
yeah,
explain. So
yeah,
that was good planning on your part.
yeah.
I
I
have
think
to
for
ask you this
me,
though. Oh,
it
go
was
ahead.
a validation. No, I was just going to say, for me, I think a lot of it is, and this is sort of a good lesson too, is that we can, um, discount our understanding or what we know, through experiences around, let's say it is business, and you've been trained as a designer. So for me, yes, I learned a ton in my program, but I
hmm
think a lot of it, I would say, 75% of it was just building that self-confidence to say, like, okay, I'm validated, like I
Yes, yes.
have this, and so therefore I am.
Oh, I love it.
But
I love
it
it.
doesn't need to be that way.
I have to ask you this because, like I said, I worked in a restaurant too. But what do you still make from the restaurant, or what did you learn? What skills you get from restaurant? What do you cook that you are just like the best at? Because I make the
Yeah.
best grilled cheese sandwiches and
Uh-huh.
pancakes. So I'm curious as to what your claim to fame is. What was your
Well,
takeaway?
yeah, I think, I could, there's a lot there because, um, they made a lot of things. And by the way, like I was probably 10 or 11 years old at this time. So I wasn't old enough to serve or be out in the dining room. So I literally did hide in the kitchen, and I loved it. So I would say the one thing that I learned how to make, because I made probably, 100 of them while I would be back there in the kitchen,
Mhm.
is crepe shells. So, like ladling
Yes,
and
yes.
then doing the whole thing, and then, you know, yes. So I can make crepes.
But that's kind of
Yeah.
hard. So that's good.
That was, yeah, that was, it
You
was,
can
it
do
was, it
that.
was a skill set and a technique that I learned that I never would have learned anywhere else. And I was part of that was, they were like, oh, well, you can, prep these for us. And I was like, great. And I also rolled egg rolls. I mean, we had spring
Oh,
rolls. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of different facets to it, but those are the two things that come to mind for me, of things that you just don't maybe do ordinarily, but yeah, I know how to do that.
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you get the opportunity to do any painting or drawing, like you used to do in school, or has it just been kind of wrapped into what you do now in business?
Yeah. Um, I actually recently have been getting trying to get back into some painting. But I would say the majority of my creative time in my free time is related to cooking. And that's everything: cooking,
Oh, I
baking. I
love
love
it.
it all. I know some people are either one or the other. I love it
Hmm
all. I love entertaining. It brings me a lot of joy, and I love doing, I love feeding people that I love. Like, I think that there's just something, um, it's like sort of the ultimate nurturing in some
Yes.
ways. And then also, getting out in my yard. So a lot of gardening. I just finished doing some landscape lighting. Like,
Oh, wow.
I love, I love cultivating a garden. I love growing herbs and flowers. And so, yeah, that's probably where some of my other creative pursuits live.
I love that. And because I was going to ask you if you grew things that you could then bake or cook into things like
Yes,
the herbs and the all that sort of stuff. So that's really nice.
absolutely. In fact, I was just commenting, because Thanksgiving's like, my Super Bowl. Um, uh, I have a ton of rosemary that I have growing in my garden, in my yard, and I was sort of, taking a lot of pride in the fact that when I was at the grocery store shopping rather, everyone seemed to be out of rosemary. And I was like, I have plenty. So
Yeah.
like it worked out for me. So yes, I grew a lot of different tomatoes this summer. I mean, I just think there's nothing better than fresh tomato and
Absolutely.
some burrata and some olive oil and salt and pepper.
Yes.
Like it's, yeah,
Yes.
some fresh basil. Yeah, nothing better.
That is the best. That is the best. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the few things I actually get growing. I don't have a green thumb in that regard, but I still do the painting and things like that. And I've only kind of recaptured going all in on that, where it's
Yeah.
just for me and not for anything else than that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
and I would
For
love
sure.
to, and I don't know if you have this, like just a random sketchbook lying around. I have one lying around, but I have not taken a lot of time to actually draw things in it. But I'm trying to get back to where I would doodle all the time too, and just keep the
Yeah.
flow going, if you will.
Yeah. I will say, and I think you sort of asked this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but I do a lot of that for work and primarily TenSpace. I've been very engaged and involved in a lot of the ideation and sketching and things of that nature for that concept. And so I think I get a lot of that stuff at work, and I get involved in certain projects from time to time as well with the team, and so I get to flex those muscles Monday through Friday, and so yeah,
I love it.
sketchbooks are still part of my everyday.
I love it. And let's just talk about a little bit too about who is an ideal client for both of your businesses, for both TenSpace and Tenfold.
Mm-hmm. Great question. I think for us, what we've discovered, whether it's a large company and we've done work for, multi-trillion-dollar brand like BlackRock, I mean, massively huge,
Oh, wow.
to small privately owned businesses and sort of everything in between, everything from healthcare to higher education to corporate, public, private, you name it. The consistency for us is that it has leadership that truly believes in brand and culture. And I think whether they believe this before they engage with us, or if it isn't until they sort of have a little bit of the aha moment after, is that that the best brands are built from the inside out, and that they truly walk the talk. It isn't just popular
Mm-hmm.
rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
but that they believe it. And we've worked with clients who, and generally speaking, I would say I think privately owned businesses tend to take those things much more seriously because it feels, I think, more intensely personal to them.
Yeah.
I always say, like, if you're a founder-led business, that it has to feel like your skin, because that is how it feels.
I love that.
But I think leadership that is that's genuinely open to that philosophy and embraces that philosophy, those are our best clients. And it's been such an honor to work with clients across such a wide variety of industry and business size, who are really inspiring to me, where I can see that being displayed in real time, and have the opportunity to learn from a lot of these leaders. The ones that we do so well with are the ones who take personal active role in our projects, even if it means that they're not at every meeting, but we have specific milestones that they are involved in.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple CEOs recently who, felt that the work we were doing was as such a high priority that we were introduced to their board of directors. They were part of our process, and these are public companies. So I think that those are the clients that make the best clients for us,
That's
where
amazing.
we do our best work.
Yeah. And that makes absolute perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. It's like you are really getting to the heart of each of these companies and interpreting not only their story, which storytelling is very huge, but their culture and all of it, which is perfect
Yeah.
because that's how you get the best experience for your customers. And you really can figure out who your customer is in all of those regards.
Yes, absolutely. And to have that be built from a very authentic place through research that isn't just like throwing a dart at the board and saying,
Yes.
this is who we want to be. It's okay, whether you're on a transformation journey or whether it's about protecting and reinforcing exactly who you are, we work with both. It's really about building it from a place of truth. So
Mm-hmm.
it's leveraging what makes you unique, special, and differentiated from a truly authentic place so you can authentically live the brand and continue to evolve from there.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
Rachel, I am in awe of you and
Oh, thanks, Catherine.
I mean, you basically have created just such an amazing career for yourself. And I'm really going to encourage people again to check out your website because, like I said, it is awe-inspiring when you see the work that Rachel and her team are doing. That it's just beautiful work, and it has leveled up the experience and all of that. And just thank you for being a guest and sharing your story. It's been really great to share it. And I am going to keep following you because I always want to see what you're going to do next. And I encourage my listeners to do the same. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Catherine. It's always nice to take a little break out of my day and, come up from the detail and remember what really matters. So thank you.